Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve from Quality Liquid Feeds, but there we go. Okay, well, thank you very much for the opportunity. What I'd like to do is just explain briefly we are liquid fertilizer manufacturers, and we're also basic in molasses manufacture, and hence this product that we've been developing with our colleagues in the States. And what I'd like to tell you is that the work that I've been doing here, a picture paints 1,000 words. We were getting a lot of work from our colleagues in the States about the work they were doing by applying carbon, readily available carbon in the form of sugars and yeast in particular, onto soils. And one thing we've learnt with our liquid feed business is the fact that the rumen, by feeding the rumen bacteria, you can make everything in the rumen work much, much better. And I believe there's a similar kind of work we can do with soil by feeding the soil bacteria, and how refreshing it is to hear other speakers talking about the soils and about the biological activity within the soil. Very, very refreshing, and it's just different to putting on more fertilizer. And what we need to be doing is making the soil work better, make it breathe, and make it do what it does naturally. Somebody teach me how to use this, please. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I can just stand out of the way for the rest of you. Soil is the farmer's biggest asset, and yet it's the one that we know least about. How many fields in the UK never reach their full potential? Many, many agronomists will have areas of farms that you know that the field can do better, and yet it never reaches the potential that you know it can. Have you ever wondered why that is? And so we need to know what's going on below the ground. One of our speakers there mentioned soil with no earthworms, but there are millions of various bacteria, fungi. 99% of them are beneficial, and we need to get to be using those and feeding them properly. So there are millions of these bacteria, protozoa, nematodes, and let's remember that plants convert solar energy to sugars and exchange them in the soil for nearly 42 essential elements. When was the last time you applied 42 elements to your crops? Of course we don't, but they are all there, and the point I'm making, the soil has the potential to yield those. Readily available carbon is one of the most critical nutrients for growth and the health of the soil microbes and for soil vertebrates as well. It's an essential building block of life, sugars, proteins, oils. Water is about the only element that doesn't contain carbon, and it's been massively depleted from our soils over recent years. There's nothing new. You can look at this work on the web. There's a lady called Dr. Elaine Ingram in the States, probably 20 years ahead of her time when it comes to cover crops and the use of carbon. Gary Zimmer, he's an American organic farmer. Company called Edifos in the UK, probably 10 years ahead of their time in looking at the use of carbon in soils. And QLF in the States looked at this over about 7 years ago, and we've just been looking at this, and we finally brought this product into the country last year. 50% of organic matter in this country has been lost since the late 40s. And that's just a summary of some of the work that was done at Rothamsted in particular. My thought as an agronomist is, should we be considering carbon as the new sulfur when it comes to feeding these crops? Not that they do similar things in the soil, but just as we got switched on to sulfur 12 and 15 years ago, I think carbon is going to be something that we really do need to be addressing. So plants, what does the product that we have do? It provides a carbon-based energy source to feed the soil biology. I'm looking to feed the soil bacteria rather than feeding the crop itself. It improves the vigor of microbial populations such as the bacteria and the fungi, and it provides a balanced nutrient package, mainly high carbon sugars and yeasts, also some nitrogen and some potash in there. Does it work? Well, this was one of my farmers from Shropshire called me when I was at Cereals last year. Two Fisk brothers, very briefly, I see the clock is ticking there. We simply applied 20 litres of this product, cost something like £12 a hectare to do it. We applied it with the pre-emergence herbicide, and if you can see, the treated is on the right, untreated on the left. That's my hand there. We just simply went the day after Cereals, and he said, you must come and see this crop. The difference is absolutely staggering. And this is what we did. I sent one of the farmers, two brothers, one onto one side, one to the other, and they picked up the crops. We cut the stems, and you can see that the stems on the treated side have got 300% more, 3 times the volume of the of a leaf area index in the stem, just because we'd put this product on, activating the soil biology. We took it through to yield increase. We commissioned Harper Adams College, 7% yield increase on maize, the same on potatoes. Took it through to starch and dry matter, which Neil did the work on for us, up 15%. The soils and the fertilizer has potential to do it. We need to start releasing this potential. All of the work is over there. I think my time is more or less finished, but do take a look at this. It's a cheap treatment. We are basic in fertilizer. We are basic in molasses, and therefore we can provide a product that is going to do the job for you. And it takes a very, very fractional yield increase to start paying for these products. This is how they do these things in the States. Once it's in a liquid, you can pump it and therefore get it into a much more accurate and less concentrated part of the plant. Just a few pictures to finish with, really. Thank you very much for listening. I'm on red.